What's up, YouTube fam? Where's my soul tribe at? I'm looking for you guys. Where you at? I'm waiting, man. I'm waiting for these subscribers to start building up. I know it's coming. I know it's coming. So, anyway, today I wanted to speak about the healing journey and how it started for me and where I went with it. Certain people and authors or speakers that help me grow as a human being. um, I've always been able to do self-reflection and introspection. I've always been able to be accountable for my actions. I've never been blind to my actions and the consequences or whatever came with those actions, right? So when I started this healing journey, I remember asking myself this question, and this question opened up a lot of doors going forward as to what I would start researching. Um, the question was, who am I and why am I the way that I am? So I wanted to know, who am I? Why am I the way I am? Why do I do the things I do? And a couple of things that I came across on the internet, mostly YouTube. I used YouTube as a way of educating myself into a lot of things that I had no idea about, right? So, I picked up meditation, breath work, healing frequencies, crystal work. That part of my spiritual journey, right? I watched hundreds of hours of Alan Watts lectures. I love that man. I love the way he speaks and uh, how his mind goes so deep. Um, I really resonated with that. So Alan Watts was a big one. I love philosophy. I love psychology. I love stoicism. Um, so I liked Alan Watts a lot, right? I listened to a lot of his things, and a lot of it made sense. I resonate with what he's saying. Um, when I wanted to look into childhood trauma and addictions, the main guy that I listen to, and he's got a lot of content out there on the internet, Dr. Gabor Mate. This man is an angel. Like, he's been through a lot. He grew up in Germany during like Hitler's reign, right? And the concentration camps, and when shit was it was a war, right? So he grew up in a war zone. Um, and he had a lot of childhood traumas that affected him later on in his life. Um, so to hear this man speak about having compassion and empathy for people with addictions and traumas, he labels them big T's and little T's. um, some people have more big T's, big traumas, and some people have more little traumas. It all depends on your upbringing and how you were programmed in those first 7 years of life, right? So he opened my eyes up to the root cause of addictions being childhood trauma. So he basically says that anybody with any addiction of any kind, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping, eating, whatever could be done to such an extent that it's bad for us, right? And a lot of us can resonate with that. I'm sure a lot of us have certain vices and addictions that we still carry with us today. um, I'm happy to say that personally, I gave up gambling in 2018 after I took a huge loss in the casinos that year. I haven't gambled since. I also gave up alcohol that year. I didn't drink again for another 3 years, and I didn't get back into drinking like an alcoholic. Not to abusing myself with with alcohol, but I, again, don't condone it. It's bad for you. Spirits, you know, it brings with it a lot of negativity. Regardless, I always used to say nothing good came from drinking for me. Nothing good. So I gave up drinking and I gave up gambling, and I gave up. Uh, that was in 2018. 2021, I completely gave up any drug use that I was condoning in. Um, I also, between 2019 and 2021, I basically went like abstinent, and I gave up sex, and I wasn't I was I went into my hermit mode, and that's where I started doing the research into all of these topics, right? So Alan Watts, Dr. Gabor Mate, a huge one, huge. He shed so much light on so many topics for me, and it helped me understand a lot of stuff. So I'd recommend that to anybody watching this. If you're interested in that part of the healing journey, please find some of his content out there. Um, what else? What else? So when I was asking myself, who am I and why am I the way I am, right? One of the first things I did was I took the Myers-Briggs personality test. And after taking that test, I discovered that I'm an INFJ, which is one of the rarest personality types in the world. It's like a 0.03% of the personalities. I think there's 8 of them. Don't quote me on that, but it's the rarest. And what comes with being an INFJ? The easy definition is it's introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judgment, right? So before you make a judgment, you go off your feeling and your intuition, and coming from an introverted, place, which all made sense to me. Like I was very internal and introverted when it came to a lot of my life, my problems, my thoughts, my actions. It all stemmed from within, and was like, before doing something, I would contemplate 50 different ways that could go, good and bad, before I went and did whatever I did. Like, it's weird the way my mind works, and I wanted to know why, And so, like, after finding out what an INFJ is, and then looking into, you know, uh, a lot of content on that, things started to make sense on why I thought the way I thought, why I felt the way I felt, why I acted the way I acted. Um, so I took that Myers-Briggs personality test. That opened my eyes to a lot. Then I came across the 5 agreements. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. That's another great one I'd recommend looking into. There's like a short, maybe 25-30 minute version on YouTube that goes through what the 5 agreements are that you make with yourself. I can't remember all 5 off the top of my head. I probably should write some of this shit down so I could hit some PowerPoints on some notes. But I'm just coming in my natural state, vulnerable, honest, and open with you guys. So with the 5 agreements, I know one of them is always do your best, because if you do your best, and somebody wants to, talk shit about the job that you did, or whatever it was, the creative thing that you did, and you did your best, nothing anybody else could say around you is going to affect your feelings on that, right? Because you did your best. That makes sense. um, Another one was always be impeccable with your word. Makes sense. If you're always impeccable with your word, and your word means something, your word is your bond, then nobody could ever really go against it. There would never be an argument with your word. um, Another one is not to use your words to knock somebody down, like black magic. uh, you know uh, you don't want to be talking shit about people, gossiping, and you know what I'm saying. Like, well, what good comes from that? Nothing. It's just condoning in negative activities, right? The other two, I don't remember off the top of my head. You're gonna have to go look into it if you're interested. It makes a lot of sense. When I heard it, I loved it, and I listened to it a bunch of times. Um, so the Five Agreements, Dr. Gabor Mate, childhood trauma, addictions, Alan Watts for the philosophy, the outlook on life. These were things that I really went deep into researching, and I got a lot of knowledge from that, right? Um, I already, by the time I hit the age of 40, I felt like, I mean, I've always kind of had that old soul wisdom. I've always been somebody that throughout my whole life, people would talk to me. They would spill their guts. They would, like, people that don't even know me just open up and start telling me shit like about themselves. And I'm sure after they're done, they're like, wow, why did I tell this guy this stuff, right? It's just, that's just the nature that I have. That, I'm not judging anybody. I could totally relate with most people in most situations. Um, and I'm just easy to talk to. So my whole life, I've always had friends and family come to me for advice and what I thought about something and how I would go about it. You know what I'm saying? If I was in a situation, and I've always been able to give an open and honest, thought process as to how I would go about things. And sometimes, they listened and it helped them, and sometimes they didn't. But I guess when somebody's talking to you, right? The first thing you want to ask them is, do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to give you feedback, advice, my opinion? It's best to get that out in the open before you even start a conversation, because some people just want to vent and they don't really want to hear anything except themselves talk, right? So it's understandable, but if someone's coming to you with an open heart and an open mind, and they want that feedback and they want that opinion, even better, especially if you could give a good one. So I just wanted to keep today just light, share some of the things that I enjoyed researching and listening to, that helped me get on my path. Um, once I understood that my addiction stemmed from my childhood traumas, then I knew I had to do the shadow work on the childhood traumas, and that was a lot of work. Um, I I had to I had to dredge up and go through a lot of emotions and a lot of that negative shit that I was carrying around for so long, that I wasn't even acknowledging. You know what I'm saying? So um, I've definitely put a lot of time, into the shadow work, and because I had the time, and a lot of people these days, they don't have time. That they're working all day long. They're coming home. They're eating dinner, watching a little bit of TV if they get the chance, or doom scrolling through their phones and social medias and shit. And by the time they know it, they're going right to sleep and waking up and doing. It's just the right repetitive cycles, right? You just keep repeating them. I I didn't live that life, so I got to put a lot of time into myself, and that was the best thing for me. It really made me the man I am today, and I'm very proud of how far I came, and how I pretty much I beat depression. I beat suicidal thoughts. I beat PTSD. I'm It's always going to be there. There'll always be something that could trigger something that's in there for me to respond in an angry or negative way. But I'm very mindful, and I try to always refrain from any of that, especially these days. I've been in therapy uh, with an excellent therapist for the last 2 years. um, and it was funny, when I came into therapy, I had already came in off of 3 years of self-love, of self-reflection, introspection, self-healing, all self. I already did a lot of work. So when I came into therapy, my therapist was like, well, you got a real good head on your shoulders, and you know what you're talking about, and the reasons behind a lot of, whatever it is that we were speaking about, negative or positive, where it came from, and how to go about working through it. um, Mindfulness being, the biggest thing, you know what I'm saying, always being mindful. um, So when I was looking for my therapist, like how I trust in God, and I trust in the universe, and I trust that people come into my life these days for the right reasons at the right times. So, I was on Google looking for therapists, and I called a couple of places. I wound up getting to like the fifth person, and it was a female counselor who lived a couple towns away from me. So when I started speaking to her and telling her what I was going through, I thought initially this was going to be my therapist. I was kind of opening up right off the bat. And when we got done with our conversation, she said, "Well, I'm going to recommend you to someone I feel is a good fit for you." I said, "Oh, you're not going to be my therapist?" She said, "No, I'm going to recommend you someone I think is right for you." And I said, "All right, I trust you. So, whoever you think is best." She said, do you prefer if it's a female or a male?" I said, "I don't care. That doesn't matter to me." So I got a phone call later on that day from my therapist. His name is Dathan. Um, he called me up. We started talking. We kicked it off instantly. I found out he's from Brooklyn. I'm a Brooklyn boy, born and raised. We kind of bonded on that end of it. Um, he's a dean in like a middle school out in Brooklyn, and I told him how I always loved my deans, even though I was in trouble a lot. I loved my deans, and my deans loved me like that. I had that personality that even when I was in trouble, I can make these people smile and not be so mad at me for whatever it is that I was doing. I was I just had that, like, that gift for gab, my whole life. So he's a dean of students, he's a therapist, he's a rapper, he creates content on YouTube. His YouTube account is Bobby Stone, if anybody wants to look into it. um that's my man. I love him, and he's been such a great support in my life. He's been like my corner man. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I was in the ring, that's the guy healing up the cuts, and working on the damages, and getting me better to go back in the ring and start fighting, right? So he's my corner man, and man, I love this guy. I'm so happy God brought him into my life, and I'm gonna be with him for a while. I have no plans on stopping. I'm not perfect. I'm never gonna be perfect. And like I said, nowadays, I just want to be better than I was yesterday. I want to be a better man today than I was yesterday, and I continue to work on that. And life continues to get easier, more peaceful, and better for me with each day that goes by. Um, so I just wanted to share that with you guys today. Uh, I said I was going to keep it light. I'm going to leave it at that. I love you so much. I'm sending my prayers out to anybody watching this, that you and your family are blessed, abundant, prosperous, healing, that things are going good in your life or getting better. I pray to God that He blesses and protects all of us. And I really believe that's the way it is. So I'm gonna leave it on that note. Once again, I love you guys. I'll see you soon, and thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and all that good stuff. I love the interactions, and I'm here. I'm gonna be here. So get used to it. All right. I'll see you later. Goodbye.